Hello. I hear you're an aspiring Marvel fan, and you're looking to explore characters other than the usual Spider-Man, X-Men, Iron Man, and all of those guys. You want to get to know the more isolated guys that aren't in the public eye like this dude. Well, they made a show about him. So grab your multiple personalities and let's go on an adventure, delving into the vast mind of the Moon Knight Disney Plus series. You know how this goes. I'll talk about the characters and talk about the show itself. But first, let me give you a little run through of the show. We're introduced to Stephen Grant, a down on his luck, oblivious looking guy who works at a museum and has what looks like somnambulism. No matter what he does to stop it, he always seems to wake up after doing what his sleepy self does. Eventually, he gets roped in on all the craziness of his alternate personality, Mark Spector, who seems to be a mercenary who fights monsters and other criminals. We find out that he's married as well and is going through divorce proceedings, and his wife shows up to join in on the adventure. They go up against Amit and Harrow, a guy who wants to kill everyone, who will eventually commit evil acts. Interesting, right? Raises a lot of questions about when and why we should punish people. We'll get to that, because the show sure doesn't. We eventually find out that the truth is that Stephen is the alternate personality and Mark is the original one. They go on a journey of self-discovery, or, well, at least Stephen does. Mark knows it all. We find out that Stephen was a manifestation that came up when Mark was tired of all the ill treatment by his mother, who held him responsible for the death of his younger brother. She never forgave him for it until her death. Yeah, we at least get some sort of mature storytelling in the show. Anyway, after everything, both Mark and Stephen work together to help Khonshu defeat Amit and her avatar on Earth, Arthur Harrow. Oh yeah, and Mark's girl gets superpowers for some reason that's clearly not to simply have someone of the opposite gender with superpowers as some form of empowerment or something. Yep, that's clearly not the case. Then the show ends with Khonshu setting Mark and Stephen free, and we find out that there's a third personality called Jack Lockley, who Khonshu trusted more than all of them, who was in his service. Are Mark and his wife going to fix things? Not worth asking. How will Mark live now that his alternate personality knows the truth? Not worth asking. I mean, it's clearly not interesting enough to talk about since up to now there's no season 2 announcement. Then we have his girlfriend. I forgot her name. I'll remember it in a bit. Don't worry. She's a very interesting character, I guess. She was Mark's wife, and it turns out they're getting a divorce. The both of them still care about each other. A lot. I don't know if they still have feelings for each other. That part wasn't really made clear by the show. Sure they do. It's not like they're the two leads of the show or anything. Heck, doesn't even matter what you are. All that matters is that you're both the leads nowadays and you get along very well, like two leads are supposed to, or just characters who don't hate each other. Anyway, she's there. It looks like she knows how to fight. I'm not really sure. She helps Mark out with stuff. I'm not really sure, but she's dependable. Wait, I got it. She's his emotional anchor. He likes her, and everything he is doing is to protect her. Yeah, that's right. I found my footing. See? Khonshu wants her as Mark's replacement, and that gets her more mixed up in the show's events, as Mark doesn't want that fate for her. She's the less reckless one in the relationship, and wait, never mind. She's based on Moon Knight's love interest in the comics, Marlene Alron. Not really sure how you pronounce that. Even sharing some similarities with the comic book version, like the ties to Mark's escapade that led him to getting the Moon Knight powers. Just like the comic book character she's based on. She has an on and off relationship with Mark. In the end, instead of getting powers from Khonshu, she gets powers from this hippo goddess called Toweret and becomes a hero of her own. Aha! See? I wasn't lost and confused. I knew exactly what it was leading to. It was all part of the grand design. Then we have Arthur Harrow, who seems to be a former Moon Knight, played by Ethan Hawke. This could mean we'll get some super kung fu action between the two Moon Knights. Nope. My guy walked with a cane throughout the whole show, and it wasn't even a cover. It was genuine. Sad, I guess. His thing is about punishing evil people before they commit the crime. Interesting concept, isn't it? Highly debatable philosophical outlook. We'll get into that. You just wait. We also have Khonshu, the crazy moon god who wants to have a representative of justice walking around beating and killing people who do wrong in the world, even if it means being blacklisted by his fellow gods. He's a real lunatic. Pun probably unintended. He comes across as the delusional, crazy one of the show, but we do get the feeling that he talks sense, especially when he's arguing and fighting with Ahmed. In fact, the saddest part of the show, or at least the most heartfelt, was when he was getting whooped by Ahmed. It was actually kind of sad. But the end credits of the show showed that we probably shouldn't feel as bad for him as we did, because he does end up enslaving Mark in the form of Jack Lockley, either way. So he's actually kind of the most complex character in the show. I guess that's right. Interesting, isn't it? And now on to the show. As usual, like all the other Disney Plus shows we talked about on this channel, this show wasn't bad, but there was just something missing. There was some sort of factor that was missing. I don't really know how to describe it. Firstly, the tone was not right for Moon Knight. They did delve into the whole dissociative identity disorder thing that Mark has going on, but they didn't really expand on the true dark nature of the Moon Knight, because Moon Knight is so dark he makes Daredevil's darkest stories look like Teletubbies. Like, this dude wears white simply so that criminals know where to target when they're after him. He beats people within an inch of their lives. Even if you read the comics, you'll see that his rivalry with people like Taskmaster has been taken to a whole other level, where he at some point even peeled the guy's face off. Like, Moon Knight is not a joke. Moon Knight serves for comedy, of course, yes, but he's a very dark character, and putting a dark character like this in a Disney Plus show already made us have doubts about what they were going to do with him. And fortunately, the show was good, but it just wasn't as good as it could have been had the show been presented on something like, I'm not going to say Netflix because it's obvious why they didn't show it on Netflix. I'd say Hulu. I guess Hulu is owned by Disney. If they showed it on Hulu, I'm sure they would have gone through with some of the darker tone and presented a lot more debatable and philosophical things, or just gone deeper into the philosophy of, are you guilty for something that you will do, or should people wait until you do it, even though it's guaranteed that you're going to do it? Shouldn't they wait until you do it to punish you? And these are the kinds of questions that the show raises, but it doesn't really delve into. The show doesn't really do a good job of establishing what kind of relationship Mark and his love interest, I just don't remember her name, but I will eventually. Don't you worry about that. They didn't really go into what kind of relationship they had. Yes, they were married, but was it functional? Were they supportive of each other? What exactly made them fall apart? Yes, it's his double life as Khonshu's avatar, but what exactly is it that made them fall apart? Yes, the distance, but Was it enough to make them divorce? How did it get to that point? What were they like before he was Khonshu's avatar? Were they together before he was Khonshu's avatar? These are the kinds of things that we needed to see, and this is what a series should be able to provide us. And that's the problem with a lot of TV shows nowadays, well, the superhero ones. And that's why I actually like the approach the CW shows had. They had time for human drama, they had time to establish relationships, they had filler. Filler is good in order to establish the characters' lives outside of their superheroics. But people seem to have a huge problem with that. That's what leads to these limited releases that don't delve into topics like this properly. And at the end of the day, we're just going to have an incomplete thing. We'll just have ideas thrown all over, but poor execution or just incomplete execution. All under the guise that, nah, it's all part of the grand design. No, we're just going to make up more seasons. No, we're going to cover this later. Yeah, sure, you can cover it later. But you kind of need to show us that you're actually going to do that. We shouldn't have to demand these things. And the fans don't even demand these things. They just say that something's missing and they don't even know what it is. It's not action, that's for sure. There's plenty of action throughout the show. The characterization of Mark Spector is right, at least from what I know. It's just sanitized, but as far as I know, it's right. And then, of course, I'd like to get into the elephant in the room for those who are actual Moon Knight fans out there. I see that the love interest character, I will remember her name. I will. She was created for the show, and she was given superpowers. Now, I understand that there's a whole need, or rather a movement, in order to show that everybody is capable of doing what everybody else can do. But if you're going to adapt something that comes from comics, at least try to stick to that. There are plenty of other characters that we can adapt with superpowers of the opposite gender into these shows. Not every single show needs a female superhero. Not every single show needs a female counterpart to the male in order to balance out what we can perceive as the need for one. You can have a strong character that doesn't have superpowers. You can have a strong female lead that doesn't have superpowers. Moon Knight went the extra step of creating an entirely new superhero. And now they're going to introduce her into the comics. I don't know about you guys, but it just feels a bit weird. I don't know what the proper word for it is, but it's just a bit funny how they're making it kind of like it's a necessity or it has to be done. You could have his female lead just be a strong character, the emotional support, the one who anchors him to this world. And she can get things done. She can be book smart, or she can just be the one that he's fighting for because Khonshu wants to take over her. She doesn't have to be a superhero at the end of the show. I mean, even the way it was done was kind of underwhelming. I didn't really get any hype or anything or any buzz. It was just like, okay, I guess you're a superhero. But why does this feel like it's not really supposed to happen? Then I went and looked up Moon Knight lore, and yeah, it wasn't meant to happen. Either way, the show was good, the pacing was nice, it just could have done a lot better with what it had. And I really like the fact that they delved so much into Stephen Grant being the main one in the first few episodes, only to flip it around on its head and reveal that Mark is the real one. They actually had me going for a few episodes because I started to question. I was like, wait, I thought Mark was the real one. Why do they keep showing it as if Steven's the main one? Heck, there was a point where Mark even said, I'm going to give you back your body, don't worry. And it's like, bro, aren't you the main one? But then they revealed it all, and yeah, I really like that, actually. I really like that. So that was a nice conversation. You guys can leave the comments below. You can like the video, share the video. Please share the video. Subscribe to the channel, and you can talk about more shows. Next up, we're going to talk about She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. You guys are really going to enjoy that one. You're going to have to see what I have to say about that one. So just stay tuned to the channel, And again, please just turn on your notifications, subscribe to the channel, check out our Facebook, check out our Instagram, and you can have a look at our blog as well. We're expanding and we have a lot of content that we'd love to share with you. But you guys got to interact. You guys got to subscribe. So let me catch you here watching the She-Hulk video that we're going to put up. Layla, that's her name. I certainly did not go on to Google to